Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we're bringing you day 360 of Russian invasion into Ukraine. As always, with Olexiy Arestovich, former advisor to the office of the President of Ukraine, and Mark Feygin, Russian opposition politician. Enjoy. Dear friends, glad to see you all on Feigin Live. It is Saturday, 17th of February. Time is 2 minutes past 9 in Kiev and 2 minutes past 10 in Moscow. We're doing another stream, day 360, with Olexiy Arestovich. Glad to see you, Olexiy. Glad to see you too, Mark. 5 more days and it'll be a year, right? Well, yeah, calendar year is soon. Actually, yeah, you're right. I'm getting lost in these days. It's been too long. Anyway, over 70,000 are watching us. 17,000 click the like button. Thank you for coming to watch and to hear to us, to listen to us over the weekend. Do not forget to share, subscribe, and like. You know, my usual ask. And of course, subscribe to Feigin Live, to Olexiy Arestovich, and to the Privateer Station if you are listening or watching that in English. Let's start with Munich conference, Munich Security Conference. Yes, exactly. And in light of that, with the future visit of Biden, I've just seen the news coming out. Kirby said that Biden will appeal to Putin and to Russian citizens while visiting Poland, and that is already being compared to, I think, Kennedy's speech in Western Berlin back in the 20th century. And in the Munich conference, I think many things that are sort of prologue to that visit. The motive is one. Moscow has lost, give up. I'm just being a bit blunt in my usual manner, but you can maybe tell us more about it. Well, Mark, the logic is as follows. I suspect this is what will be said. The line, you're correct, yes. They would probably highlight that Russia could have taken a proper place in the world, partake in building a better future, but Putin preferred to take Russian citizens hostage and to plunge the world into the biggest war since the Second World War in Europe, sharpening and disrupting a lot of processes. And as a result, Russia stops being a global country, a global player. The nearest proof to that is Macron's hint at reformatting the Security Council of United Nations, where one of the members will not be asked. And it's a fair question if that member even will remain. The second moment is that the energy picture in Europe changed completely. Previous agreement for security also has changed, and it's time to create new. Basically, everything will be going to the conclusion that the old life cannot continue as it was, and the new has already started. And it started without you, but you still have a chance. A chance in stopping the senseless attempt to continue this war, to do any additional effort like overall mobilization, draft, because it won't do anything to you except for generate more losses and more casualties in this war, since the West has made its decision to support Ukraine in this war and to fight against your aggression until it wins. Minister of Foreign Affairs of Germany never said that before, but now they're saying openly that Germany will not support any territorial secessions in exchange for peace. That would mean that we betray the Charter of United Nations and that we feed Ukraine to the maw of the aggressor, and that's Germany. This is definitely a sign, right? Yeah, it is. It is, Olexiy. The person deeply traumatized by trilateral diplomatic negotiations before that war. I think this is a tectonic change in the position of the West. The West has already made that statement that they're going to stay with Ukraine as long as necessary, and the end of this will be an utter defeat of Russian expansionist ambitions. And it's only you and the president who can decide how deep your defeat will be. So Putin plainly, you do not need this war, withdraw your troops and sit down at the table of negotiations. Do you think, Olexiy, this question with offensive, I kind of proposed my vision of that in yesterday's stream. I think they understand that there will not be a grand-scale offensive. There will be victims, yes, but there will not be like a major push. Yeah, they'll probably say, don't even try. The message will be, don't even try with that offensive campaign. It will be a soft ultimatum, essentially, from the West. You either wisen up, withdraw your troops, give up military criminals, and then you have a chance to come back to the family of peoples, or he will not say that so bluntly, but basically will finish you off, and the cost for you of waging this war will be horrible. And the future world will be built without you. It will be veiled in diplomacy, in language, but the contents, I think we understand, right? Well, yeah, there is an authoritarian regime, though, which may not even listen to that. It's an authoritarian pyramid that Putin built, and they're not sensitive to these things. This is a message to more of a collective Putin, I think. Remove an asshole and everything will be better. Well, yeah, I think it is. We even see Surkov starting to come out with symptomatic messages that we did not expect. Such a resistance in Ukraine and such participation of the West. We see statements that are close to our special services who are confirming that there is some collective anti-Putin being formed who is now trading with the West about withdrawing to the borders of the 23rd. Just support us and talk to us. Well, the actual solution would be to withdraw to the condition of August 24th of 1991, and then there'll not be much issues left, but giving up military criminals and some reparations. But they'll get there eventually. They're starting at somewhere in the middle. But on the Russian side, there is some hints and confirmations that such group already is being formed, and they already are starting to talk to the West. So this will be an appeal to a collective Russian people, but in essence, it'll be turning to that group, because the problem is singular, and its name is Vlad Huilo. And also an interesting statement from China. Yeah, indeed. I think China will come out, and there is something there. I think they will support territorial integrity of Ukraine. There is one of the Chinese political leaders, Wang Yi, who is one of the top-level leaders, and China, in his face, mentioned that they will prepare a document about their position on the war in Ukraine. But this document, I'm just foreshadowing it, will not be liked by Putin, but it will be liked by that group, by that party that just starts to form in Moscow. Then this party will be able to point both at the position of the West and position of China. This is one of the strongest arguments in the matters of conclusion of this war and in settling down the opinion of those who are still hesitant in Russia. So You think, Alexei, this position of China is in agreement with Washington and in face of Washington with the collective West, or they're still fishing in muddy waters in favor of themselves? It's difficult to say that, to pinpoint that, but China has been rather stable in supporting territorial unity of Ukraine and in not supporting the expansion of this war. I don't know if they agreed with the West or not about it, but for the annual anniversary of this war, there is some fruit ripening, even if it's situational, brought by situational awareness and not by negotiations. It's still an important step. And since there is no other barrier for ending this war but an old asshole in Kremlin, let's sit down and talk. Look, but in Europe, Italy, Germany, Macron even said about Security Council, first we need to cleanse it and then to reorganize it. If Macron is talking about kicking Russia out of the Security Council, that does show you that changes are tectonic. He's insisting that the Security Council needs to be changed. One of the members decided to violate the rules that he's supposed to stand for, and that's why we need to reorganize that. So currently the world is definitely not in favor of Russian Federation's politics, and if Russia will continue to be stubborn in their offensive, then the world will become even sterner to Russia. They basically will send a message that you still have a chance to crawl back, and to play it back a bit. If you do not use it, then it's on you. About 200,000 are watching us, 57,000 click the like button. Those who are just joining, do not forget to click share and subscribe, and the links to our channels are in the description of this video. And do not forget to subscribe to Privateer Station if you are listening to that in English. Let's go to the map. Hey Mark, there is one more thing. Let me finish here. Okay, so the crown of that group of messages to maybe strike a peace accord and withdraw troops and push back. The speech of Rishi Sunak is an interesting one, is a crown jewel in this. Basically, his message, he's highlighting that first of all, his country will provide long-range weapons to Ukraine, and he's also highlighting that all the stockpiled weapons that NATO was saving all the time essentially were stockpiled against Russian aggression, and it is time to use it because this is exactly what's happening. So this is a good message to Russia. If collective Putin will not hear that signal and will follow the individual Putin, then it'll hurt them way more, and the stakes in this conflict will be increased. It's basically an ultimatum. It does look like an ultimatum. If you turn left, that's what's going to happen. If you turn right, then that's what's going to happen. We have warehouses full of munitions, and we will use them accordingly because we stockpiled them for that exact reason. And one needs to understand that all of these Western allies are saying, no, we're not supporting jets yet, but if one country will start supplying, we will definitely join the bandwagon, and we might also train and provide munitions for them. So, question to our viewers, do you think there will be a country that will start supplying jets? I think there'll be not even one country. Could be different countries doing it. And also repairs, if they'll be providing repairs, you can repair things differently. You can take one jet for repairs and somehow made 18 out of it. Successful repair. Right, just like in that story. So 7 hats out of 1. Okay, let's get to the front. Okay, there were some aerial attacks today. There were 4 attempted hits with cruise missiles. 2 were shot down. There were some targets shot. It did not affect the energy supply of our citizens today. In the last 24 hours, we had 16 missiles that were shot at us. Khmelnytsky got some explosions. And the main effort on the Russian side is still concentrated in Kupiansk, Liman, Bakhmut, basically on the Eastern Front side. Let me zoom in as well so I can see what I'm talking about. I think Shoigu and Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation came out today and said that they heroically took a settlement called Grinikovka. This is the road that goes to Kupiansk, and our general command said no, they didn't have any success and we're still fighting. But when the Minister of Defense of the supposedly second army in the world is putting on his banners that they've occupied a settlement where there's a village where there are 60 houses, I think it's 600 people that are living there. So yeah, that tells you about the scale of their success. They are trying to push us away from the road, Slatova-Kremenная. They're also trying to push to the north from Solidar so that our protrusion with Siversk, the one in the middle bottom of this map, will fade away, but they're not really succeeding. And they're continuing to try to encircle Bakhmut. It's not really successful, and you actually can see that we're pushing them away from the road. They were already fighting for Ivanovsky before, and now we push them further out. You can see they're not even touching the road now. Also, there was information that one artillery brigade, one artillery group is being withdrawn from Bakhmut because they've suffered tremendous losses. And that's artillery. They were not on the front line, they were a little deeper inside, shelling us. And something happened to it. So if artillery suffered these losses, you can imagine what's happening on the front. Then what else? They're still pushing near Avdiivka-Marinka down south without any success. And Vuhledar, they're still trying to push, slightly changing the direction of their main effort. You can see the arrow, these two arrows pointing somewhat to the north and to the northwest. Kherson, traditional artillery duels with hits on our peaceful objects and targets, and us retaliating at their artillery. And what's happening on Bakhmut? One can tell that by looking and observing the conflict between Wagner and the Ministry of Defense. Oh yeah. That video. Good machine guns, bad generals. They actually, two Wagner soldiers shot up the pictures of generals of Russian army. And before that, there was another video where they showed the dead bodies of their comrades, saying that army is not supplying them enough munitions. And Prigozhin came out and said that we are not exactly under command of Russian army here on the front. We are fighting this war for Putin, and we will continue fighting everywhere in the world the way we want. But that's a bad story. In 2014, there were people in that early stage of this war who were behaving like that. They were all cleaned out. Most of them are not alive anymore. They don't understand that Russia doesn't really like such statements from their field commanders. That usually ends up with disciplinary action. Sometimes they just get disciplined, but in most cases they get removed and killed. And in most part, this is a result of heavy and unsuccessful fights near Bakhmut. When were they supposed to take it? Oh, God knows, several months ago. So you think, as a battle unit, as a reserve, as the strike force, Wagner is being written off. Do I understand it correct? No, it is not written off. It'll be made a compact size, suitable for solving certain tasks in exotic locations such as Central African Republic, Southern Africa, topical questions. They will be wasted much more heavier in Africa if they lose Ukraine. Yeah, but the thing is that Russia made a decision that they do not need Wagner. expanded to the size of an army, right? Field army. Because they see the tendencies that appear. They're basically Razin and Pugachev rebellion type tendencies. And local Suvorovs are now there trying to cleanse them and restrict them. Of course, they'll be cleansed. There'll be those figures who try to make very planetary-sized statements. Their future is very short and sad. And I think they'll generally take some of the fighters from Wagner into the other enforcement agencies of Russia. Another part will die and remain in the ground on the front. And the small group that remains will be enforced to follow very strict rules and will be pointed at their comrades who were too vocal that they didn't know when to shut up. So that's how you'll behave, dear Wagners. And there'll be some very well dressaged Wagners somewhere deep in Africa sending their newspaper leaflet to Moscow saying that's what we're doing, this is our plan, that's how we are, weekly. Yeah, that's probably their future. And the destiny of Prigozhin himself, I think, will show what is going to happen with Wagner. I think he will not remain even, Mark, as a political figure for long. I'm not sure if he'll remain physically alive, but definitely he'll not be a political player. So his aspirations are to not happen, to not come true. Another thing that surprised me in Munich Security Conference is, that one of my features is trying to return ethics into politics. And very serious people are usually giggling and saying, oh, wait, politics is usually Machiavellianism, cynicism. Oh, I think it's Savonarola's apologites, not even Machiavellian politicians there. Well, Yermak came out today and he suggested an interesting thing. He said, new ethics must be reviewed as a punishment for Russian crimes in this war, and it has 3 points. First, injustice must be non-profitable. Second, it must be judged and punished. And third, it's only righteous actions that must be rewarded. And if you are looking for any reward, you only get it if you behave correctly, if you behave according to the rules and you're making righteous actions. So this is a clustered, very niche, very narrow directed statement, but we'll see what will also happen in the United Nations and how they will try to reformat it and punish Russia for their actions. So it remains to be seen if that will be extrapolated further, but I do like how Ukraine is breaking old, not working structures, and Ukraine has really interesting stern back and enough energy to continue pushing for that. We have other issues, of course, there's more room to grow, but I do like when we act across the whole chessboard, because I do like these moves. I do like when we act on a global scale. When I hear statements like that, I cannot not be glad. On the International Security Conference, when you hear that ethics needs to be part of the future political decisions, this is a lot. This hasn't happened since 1648, I think, when, as a result of Westphal agreement, there was a question of sovereignties and new political structure in Europe, and a theme of national interests appeared, which are very cynical and were not ethical at all. They just were judging the exact balance of power. That famous conversation of Krause with Schlag in 17 Moments of Spring movie. Politics do not care about your terms of Christ and ethics. Politics only concerns about the balance of power. So I was really impressed when I read that. Even when we're creeping up gently with that message in that system, this is a great beginning. And it's curious, it remains to be seen if it'll bear fruit yet, but this is a great push towards changing the scheme of the world order, that Yalta-Potsdam conference scheme that ended after the Second World War. Even if sometimes in small questions ethics will start appearing in politics, then you can consider that the lid that was shut tight over humanity is now getting lifted a little bit. Maybe I'm an optimist, but I do hope that this is the future. Alexei, I'll tell you that I'll be glad if we even succeed to bring the international law back in power. Ethics is a great step further, but right now we do have a lot of grievances caused by Russia by complete neglect of the international law as the source for preventing conflicts and providing security in the world. International law, main requirement to that is to provide the balance of interests to support that, but the ones that would also exclude decisions being made by one. So you cannot unilaterally move borders, you cannot change territorial contours of countries just because I want so. And countries normally take these obligations onto themselves, but I hope they'll get to the ethics and to the moral beginnings eventually. I wanted to show that recording, that video. It's 20 seconds. I mean, the Wagner dudes that shot up the pictures. I dedicated some time in my yesterday stream to that matter, and there is a certain continuation to that story about the consequences. Let's take a look. We have some time, so 20 seconds. I don't think some of our viewers had a chance to see that. Let's give them this opportunity. For a machine gunner, there is an effing awesome exercise, shooting at the figure at a distance of 100 yards. To be a good machine gunner, you need to train and practice a lot. So let's start with an exercise. Great effing machine gun. Effed up generals. You're faggots. Where is our support? Where is our munition? Go effing fight yourself, or go send your paratroopers to effing fight. So here's what. We looked at this video, just so you guys know what was discussed. Coming back to that offensive. The moral climate is a whole other separate matter. I think very few people even believe now that this trumpeted offensive will even give any result. We're not even showing the second video. It all started with the screams that Ukraine was actually doing that propaganda, and then there was another video internally to Russia. They already showed these two who are apologizing. There was military police who brought them somewhere to court-martial location, but it's beyond the point. The main is, okay, Wagner, private mercenary corps, and their conflict with regular army. The question of this offensive, in your view, everything that's happening, is it a justification? Is it does it explain that Moscow actually is going to use all the remaining resources and means to demonstrate whatever is left, besides what's happening right now? We understand Bakhmut, Kremenaya, Uglidar, but is there any reserve to... And I'll remind you that we discussed that on the past Ramstein in Brussels. Even the Minister of Defense, Lloyd Austin, I'm not even talking about British Minister Wallace, they basically understand that Russian army is very unprepared, ill-equipped. They don't even characterize it in anything else but these terms. What reserve is? Well, I don't see an opportunity for a reserve in Moscow to use in this conflict. Even the apologists of Russian army are saying that there's maybe 2 or 3 weeks left for the spring rains and muds to hit the front. So tell us more about what is going on. Shall we see any large-scale offensives, or shall we see any of these 1,800 tanks or 400 jets used in the conflict? What do you think we should expect in the next couple of weeks? Mark. I would say I would describe that as a suicide. This is a completely idiotic idea. It will last for 2 or 3 times shorter than people expected. How long? Maybe a month, maybe slightly over a month. They will suffer tremendous losses. They will understand that they have not moved anywhere, that the front is crumbling, the supply lines are horrible, nobody knows what to do with that later. And as a result, even the dumbest will have the light bulb shine above their heads that you cannot win this conflict, these political problems that they posed militarily, that the military solution does not have any perspectives. What will happen after? It's another question, but they will probably come to an understanding that there is no military solution to what's going on. You can continue, you can keep pushing, you can even conscribe more people to the front, but in this current state, Russian army cannot provide any solution to this conflict. And what do you need an army for? Of course, to resolve political matters. And in this case, it's just continuation of politics by other means. And that will become obvious internally in Russia as well. On the West, we already see that. And some people already understand that. Girkin in Russia, yeah, he's already saying, that's what who's referring to that. It's 2-3 weeks. He's the one pointing out that there's no room for offensive. Exactly. He understands that their capabilities are very, very limited. Technical supply line is also on a thread. Moral is below the floor level when your soldiers are shooting up the portraits of one of the leading commanding generals and the head of the general command. It tells you about the morale. And the main thing is practical results on the battlefront. Okay, they're saying Bakhmut and Solidar. We're looking at it at these 2 points as a preparation for this offensive. They gathered everything the best they have there. That's where they used all the artillery shells, or 90% of them, all the equipment they had, and what? And nothing. Yeah, they've taken Solidar. They've started since August and taken it by January, maybe. In 5 months, it took them to capture a small village of a town type. Yeah, they probably will continue pushing in some parts. They may be a little more dead from Wagner's. They might send 3 volleys of missiles. Okay, so if they send 120, we'll shoot down, 80, 90 of them. They'll damage some electric lines. We'll spend maybe 5 days without power. Okay, so what? They can even, push a little further. They might even take another village next in line. But here, regardless of the degree of their success, locally, everybody will start to understand that these efforts are not leading anywhere. They're useless and futile. That's what I think will come as a fruit of this. 400 jets are not flying anywhere. They have not flown anywhere a year ago when the situation was very different. Where are they going to fly now? I always tell to the civilians who don't understand how complex it is to use military aviation. Imagine you're flying in a civilian airplane. All of a sudden, you have another jet flying real close to you, right? It kind of scares you a bit. And imagine that you have 16 jets flying next to each other. Each of them is maneuvering, working on the ground targets. The ground air defense systems are working on you. Would you like to be in a plane like that? First of all, it's scary and technically difficult. It also needs to be provided with, fitted with good pilots, with the ones who are well trained. Why in the planes that were shooting down in Su-25s there are 60-year-old retirees dying? Because they don't have pilots. They're out of trained pilots. And the ones that they do have, do you think they can even act jointly? Do you think they conduct group operations? Group operations is what? Starting from 8 jets, where part of them is distracting the artillery systems, the air defense systems. Another part is attacking them and destroying targets. That takes a lot of training. That United States trained their pilots in all the different wars and spent hundreds of millions of dollars to train them how to suppress air defense systems and how to work together as a group. This is top level skill. This is a system that you'd spend 30 years building. And Russian army that was diminished and reformed since 91, where different levels of command do not understand each other. Generals do not talk to colonels, colonels do not talk to captains, because each of these generations was trained with different logic and different mindset and different tools. What are you talking about? And 1800 tanks go in the same direction as these jets. I would say there'll be several things about this offensive. First, the scale will be way less than people expected. All the apologists of the wide-scale offensive will be surprised by how small it will be. Second, it will be shorter than they would expect. And third, the catastrophe after that will be much stronger. And the dead end where they'll find themselves will be more final. With all the understanding of doom and gloom and ineffectiveness and no perspectives, it'll finally start hitting Russian citizens, even in smaller towns. They will not still know the full scale of their defeat. They will not know how many of their soldiers have died, but they will start understanding that this problem is not going to be solved militarily. So they need to de-escalate. And that'll be the last attempt of Russian Federation to strategically offend anybody. I think they're already done with this war, and what is happening is just completely Putin's fantasies, what's happening on the front. From the military standpoint, they're useless. Okay, we have about 300,000 watching us, 91,000. Click the like button. Thank you all for spending your Saturday evening with us, your weekend time with us, and please continue sharing links and clicking the like button. Those who are watching us from authoritarian Russia, do not post it online, share it by messenger with your friends, and all the links are at the bottom of this video. Also, do not forget to subscribe to Privateer Station. We have been 37 minutes live, and let's discuss one more thing before we conclude. How will Moscow react to that? On the 21st, I think 22nd, Putin is going to address Federal Assembly, and we have no ideas what is he going to speak about yet. And the day after, he'll have a message from the stadium Luzhniki. He'll probably be in a glass bulletproof enclosure there, sending a message to the groups of people they managed together. And Lukashenko continues to... I think Lukashenko will visit him for that. There may be some people from Abkhazia, occupied Georgia, and neighbors. And I'm just hypothesizing, what can he say? Can he say that, well, to hell with it, we cannot get new territories in Ukraine, let's just expand our empire to whatever we are, keep the borders where we are, and maybe we'll take Abkhazia and South Ossetia, the territories we annexed from Georgia, as part of our country now, and maybe Transnistria will become another one. Given that the clouds are getting darker over Moldova, today President Sandu actually came out and said that today our security is being provided only by Ukraine. And one can imagine how will Moldova react if Transnistria will be taken into the ranks of Russia. Well, in Georgia as well, right? Yeah, that's a definite concern. And then the position of all these quasi-republics will be interesting. We understand South Ossetia and Abkhazia will have no wiggle room. They're between a stone and a hard place, but Transnistria can actually figure it out because they're further out and they're not immediately adjacent to Russia. And they actually enjoyed their position of gray contraband profits from Russian Federation and what they were doing. That was their business model. So if Russia will try to escalate there, I don't think they'll play along far enough. They'll need to make a decision. And, you know, the statement with Britain that long-range weaponry will turn very soon into long-range weapons from other countries. Another 2 or 3 countries will join. And then the message will be, let's finish off that idiot in Kremlin. Okay, so Olexiy, do you think Putin, besides what we discussed, can he push any other idea, some, some inspirational speech or something that, well, Mark, they really have only two options left. Either total mobilization or use of nuclear weapon. What can he do? Total mobilization? Yeah, maybe. Well, he never stopped, really. They continue conscribing people. They continue hunting and sending them to the front. But it does take at least 3 months to prepare them and send to the front if you want them to not die on the first hour. The ones they recruited back in September, a good third of them are still being trained. They're still sitting and camping somewhere in the forests, despite using Belarus and other training facilities. So you can conscribe even 5 million people. Where will you put them and how will you train them? And using nukes, well, it's one thing when you have some effect of surprise, but when you announced about that you are getting ready to use nuclear weapons, imagine how will potential targets react to that, right? No, accordingly, exactly. I think there'll be a lot of grief if they try to do that. So he'll probably try to scream some inspirationals that we are growing in territory, we are adding Abkhazia, and they're trying to create basically more conflict zones to create other negotiation platforms to try to bring more parties to the table for discussion and start trading in these difficult, muddy waters. They do love that because that's what helps them to bring more interested parties to the conversation. And everybody has different positions, so it gives them a wiggle room to find different solutions for themselves and to maybe promote their version of a peaceful solution where they take more space. And that's all the wiggle room they have. That's not too much. So, okay, I get you. We're at 290 plus thousand, and the last topic we must touch upon today that we need to announce. We will bring a poster to your screen now that we prepared. It says Feygin Live, Feygin and Arestovich. It's a global action that is being announced for the 20th of February, and that must happen in support of Mikhail Sakashvili, Save Misha. And we will discuss that for a few more minutes with Olexiy because there are some sides to that need discussion. And here there are cities mentioned. I did share that poster in my social media and on this channel, and in Telegram channel Feigin News, and in Twitter, and on the pages of Facebook. So here are the main capitals where the action will take place. It's not the full list. We're running out of time. It's, involves some graphic design, and there are more towns and cities coming up on the radar. So we have probably not much time left to add them. We maybe will do another edition of that. But those who do want to know where the actions are, right now we have Athens, Madrid, Berlin, Düsseldorf, Chisinau, Stockholm, Warsaw, Tel Aviv, Riga, Washington, D.C., London, Netherlands, I think it's in Hague, and Vienna, Rome, Madrid, Paris, Sofia, Kiev, and Prague. There's also Dublin and 10 other capitals that didn't make it to the list that we already know of will partake in the action. So we call upon you to find some time on the 20th to come out in support of Mikhail Saakashvili. This all coincides with the beginning of war in Ukraine, the annual anniversary, and with the visit of Joe Biden to Poland. I don't know if he'll cross the border into Ukraine, but he definitely will be meeting with Zelensky. And I hope that the question of Saakashvili will be elevated. I know it is being discussed in the Department of State. It already bleeped on their radar. I don't know if it will be discussed on Biden's press conference, but we are working on this matter. Unified National Movement of Georgia, the party founded by Mikhail Saakashvili, is also partaking in that action. And other unions and organizations with roots in Georgia also decided to join. And in Kiev, the action will happen next to Georgian embassy. It doesn't make sense to draw attention to that matter near Zelensky's office, because they're the major proponents in the world of that pressure on Georgian government, so they're already in the choir. You don't preach to them, but people will gather near Georgian embassy. And we do hope that Biden will talk to Zurabishvili. And it is in direct relation with the size of the public resonance of this protest. If we manage to draw enough attention, that's what's going to happen. So this action is absolutely a must for that effort. We understand that main effort now is war and winning the war, but that case of Georgia and Sakashvili is actually directly related to the characters who started this war. So please do not stay indifferent. Come out if you can and support us. So you think, Olexiy, if several leaders of different countries, and maybe Biden and maybe some others, will come out, and like President of France, or Prime Minister of Great Britain, or German Chancellor Scholz would come out with a message to the leadership of Georgia, how do you gauge the chance that they will actually fold and give Mikhail out? Yeah, the chance, I think, is big. It is difficult to disregard an opinion of so many countries and organizations, especially on the background of European and North Atlantic aspirations of Georgia. Exactly so, exactly so. Once again, we're sending a message to Ms. Zurabishvili. Listen to that. Listen to that. This is, Mark, this is an exam. It's a test, pure and simple. It's a test for being civilized. Imagine somewhere in Belgium or in Netherlands, they're finishing off an ex-politician in prison. Right? Unimaginable. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. So, 20th of February, we can partake in drawing more attention to the matter. Release Sakashvili, send him to treatment, send him to Poland, send him to a third country for recovery, and then you can continue your proceedings in a telemode if you want to. Otherwise, your political aspirations in Tbilisi will get so foggy that you'll probably lose where you were going, down to the moment when you will not be invited even as an observer to the NATO, and that candidacy for membership, the roadmap for joining the European Union might be frozen. And that'll be your last opportunity, I think, to indicate that you want to fix that situation. Otherwise, that's what's going to happen. Nobody should have any illusions about it. And it'll be taken as the biggest defeat in the foreign politics in Georgia. And then that means that next elections are basically predetermined. And what will happen to these people when they become X? Oh yeah, they have to start thinking about that while they're still in power. Because who and how will be coming out for you on the squares around the world? Think about that. We talked about it many times, and being nerdy and pushing that same button, trying to get their attention. It does lead, if they don't react to that, it leads to a very trashy scenario, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants that sad development of events that we can see might happen, so we try to resist it. I think that's it for today. We're out of matters to discuss. Tomorrow is Sunday. When are we meeting? Monday? No, Monday I will be traveling, so Monday is the 20th. Let's say Tuesday. Tuesday the 21st will be a good day, and that's when we can discuss it. And I'll send you a message. I'll let you know. Okay, we'll be awaiting, and we'll publish the schedule once we know the exact time and date. Everybody has actions and things to partake, but we do intend to meet early on in the week and discuss. It'll coincide with Biden's visit, with the results of Save Misha action. And Putin's speech also will be somewhere around our next stream, so Thank you to all viewers who were with us today on the weekend. We've been live for 15 minutes. Please do not forget to subscribe, share, and like to Feygin Live, Olexiy Arestovich, and Privateer Station. Goodbye, everybody.